very successfully apply and secure funding from this new federally funded restaurant grant. And that is going to be the topic of our discussion this morning. The goal this morning is that you will get an overview of everything you need to put together to make you an effective applicant for the grant that we are going to describe this morning. I welcome you. I am Susan McCartney. I am so excited to be here today. I am the director of the SUNY Buffalo State Small Business Development Center, and this workshop is being primarily sponsored by Congressman Higgins, who I will introduce in just one moment, and also co-sponsored by our colleague SBDC, the Niagara Community College, and CCC Small Business Development Center. They are co-sponsors also. And my important message to all of you is that we at both small business development centers, both in Niagara County, Erie County, and Wyoming County, we are available to you for one-to-one confidential counseling to assist you with fulfilling the requirements for this grant application. Okay, and our goal today is to get you ahead of the portal that will open very soon, but it's not open yet, where you will be applying for funding to help you nothing's going to totally help do everything, but it's going to be able to help you from some of the damage you experienced during the pandemic so far. So thank you for joining us this morning. And after I introduce Congressman Higgins, I will be introducing our speaker. Again, with us this morning is Congressman Brian Higgins. It was his idea to hold the workshop, encouraging the Buffalo State Small Business Development Center to get very deeply involved in providing assistance to all of you. Further, Congressman Higgins was a co-sponsor. This is wonderful, knowing he's been thinking about all of you, of the legislation that has provided this exceptional funding opportunity to all of you. Congressman Higgins has been fighting the good fight for many, many years on behalf of entrepreneurs and for the citizens of Western New York. Prior to becoming a congressman, he also did serve, and I knew him then, on the City Common Council, which he did a tremendous job. He also has a master's degree from Harvard University, but we're even more proud, we, as part of SUNY, the State University of New York, is we get to claim Congressman Brian Higgins as a graduate of SUNY Buffalo State. And trust me, Congressman Higgins, we mention it to everybody all the time, that you are one of our graduates. We're very proud of that. And today we are especially proud of the fact that you are a key advocate, congressman, legislator, making this possible today. So thank you, Congressman Higgins. I give you the Zoom space right now. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Susan. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, everybody who's participating. I'll be very brief. According to the National Restaurant Association, your industry lost $240 billion last year and lost more than 3 million employees. There's no one aspect of the U.S. economy that got devastated more than the hospitality and the restaurant industry. And we know in Buffalo and Western New York how important you are, not only to the economy of our city and our region, but also to the life quality as well. This bill should have been approved last year, a lot earlier, and with more money. And I deeply regret that we weren't able to get that done. So it's not the bill that we wanted, but it's the bill that we have. And ultimately, it will be what we make of it. So it's $28.6 billion in direct grants, and Sue and Lynn will explain more detail about the application process. The objective we have was very simple. I just want to make sure, because we're going to have more applicants and we have resources to grant. So I just want to make sure that our restaurants in Buffalo and Western New York are able to make a good, solid, complete application as early as possible, thus maximizing the potential for success. I'm going back to Washington this week. I am already in discussions with my congressional colleagues about a phase 2 of the Restaurant Act so that we can fully make whole this industry that is so important to the nation and so important to Buffalo and Western New York. With that, there's not much I can do for you now. Sue McCartney and Lynn will take it over. They are good people. They are highly professional and highly committed. They know what they're doing, and we want you to get as much help as possible so that we can maximize the benefit that this $28.6 billion will have to help your industry begin its recovery. And again, I apologize that it was not approved last year at this time. I apologize that it was not more money, but as I said, ultimately it will be what we make of it. So thank you very much for participating today, Sue and Lynn. Thank you again for your friendship and your leadership on this issue. And I'll get off. Thanks.
Thank you, Congressman Higgins. Thank you. I need for you all to know he's a super rock star in this effort. We would not be having this meeting. We would not have this opportunity to help you have this extraordinary benefit. And also in our industry, the word grant, G-R-A-N-T, is seldom part of our repertoire of resources that can help a business owner. A grant is an exceptional situation, and that is what we are talking about today, which is a direct result of the work of Congressman Higgins. So again, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you to your team. Thank you. I now am going to introduce to you an extraordinary individual, Ms. Marilyn Roach. She is conducting the training today. She is a senior advisor with the SUNY Buffalo State Small Business Development Center. Marilyn has extensive business experience. She holds 2 perfectly aligned academic backgrounds. She has a background in both marketing and accounting, which makes her perfectly suited to be able to give you all the help you need this morning during the program. She's going to outline for you the necessary requirements for applying for this funding. I can't not stress enough that today is the day to start to put your paperwork together, because when the portal opens, there's just a mad dash. And we want to make sure our message is every business owner who has a restaurant, food-related business in Western New York, we want all of you to be able to secure the funding that you apply for. So, and at the end of this program, I will introduce the Small Business Development Center team. You'll meet them, and we urge you to set up at least one consultation meeting with a business advisor. Similarly to this, do a Zoom, do an hour, make sure you've got all, as they say, your ducks in order. And so we will prevail in this important effort for Buffalo and Western New York. Okay, I'm going to pass this along to Mrs. Marilyn Roach. Are you there, Marilyn? And are you on? You're ready to go. I'm going to
ready.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. I'm going to share my screen and hope that everything goes nice. All right, from the beginning. All right, everybody can see my screen? A little nod, Andrea? Can we see my screen? Thank you. So good morning, everyone. This is such an important conversation, and I want to just say that I'm going to take a couple of slides at a time, and I'll take a break. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and Andrea will let me know if there's questions that pertain to these slides. So I wanted to say a couple things that we know at this point, okay? So this grant is going to be issued by the U.S. Small Business Administration. Right now, regulations have not yet been published. There is a guide on the SBA website. There is a sample application, but any of you who have gone through an economic injury disaster loan program or applied for PPP, we all know that this is going to probably change, okay? So it's really important that we get ready But I wouldn't hang your hat on every bit of information that you're reading. So that's part of the reason why we're sticking to what we know at this point, and working with one of the advisors down the road. Once we get the final ruling, will be advantageous. So we do not know when the application will be open. At this point, we're expecting it sometime in May, but we do know that this is countrywide and it is competitive, meaning the funds could run out. That happened with EIDL in the past. More money was issued, but at this point, it's important to be upfront and ready because it is a competitive grant. So today I'm going to talk about getting an electronic file up on your desktop, okay? And each one of these slides I think should be a file in itself. The first and most important is to have your business entity documentation ready. Whether you're a DBA, an LLC, a corporation, a partnership, all that needs to be identified because you will have to prove your business entity. So if you're a DBA, you need your certificate. And some of you may have been in business for a very long time and you don't know where that certificate is, find it, okay? If you're a DBA, you should have an employer identification number as well. I don't think anybody's using their social security number. If you are, we have to have that, okay? So the employer identification number form should have been issued well early. We need that form. You're going to take a picture of your certificate of organization, your articles of incorporation, your EIN, and or your social security number. All those documents should be put in one folder. So they should be scanned and put in one folder for your business identity. So with the LLC, they will ask for a certificate of organization. For your corporation, they will ask for the articles of incorporation. We noticed that those were missing often with the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. And again, time is of the essence. So you want to have those ready right from the beginning. The next is to have your bank information. Most likely this money is going to be deposited right into your bank account. And unfortunately, what happened with EIDL is that people confused the routing number and their account number, and they didn't get their money. And then we had to go through a whole process of asking for reconsideration and resending information. So I know this looks simplistic, and most of you probably know this, but when you're in your haste trying to do the application, you could confuse the routing number and the account number or adding that check number in at the end, okay? So we want to have the bank name and branch address. I recommend that you take a picture of a voided check, scan that, and put it in this file, okay? You're going to need bank statements, especially if they're asking for interim financial statements. So we're going to talk about the financial statements later, but if, you know, we've just had a whole quarter of 2021, and if you don't have interim financial statements ready, they may ask for your bank statements to prove income and to prove your expenses. And you're going to have your commercial loan agreements. If you have a bank loan, if you've taken PPP, and EIDL. Now, EIDL will not go against your application for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. The only thing they're going to be looking at is your PPP. But you should have all of these documents in one folder for other opportunities, okay? So all of your loans should be there together. If you have to do a personal financial statement, you need to have all of these loans available with interest and principal. So you want to keep a file with all of your business banking loan documentation, whether it be an original SBA loan, a personal loan, PPP, or EIDL, along with a canceled check. And then all of those electronic statements that you get from the bank, you should swipe into this folder. And I would recommend that you keep it by year. So go back to 2019, make a folder with your bank statements for 2019, make another one dated 2020, and make another one dated 2021. Seems like a lot of work, but it's time to do it now because we do have a few weeks at least before the application comes out. Questions on either one of these at this point? No. Great. Some of this sounds like common sense, and it is common sense. And I'm sure you have your records, but we need to have them in one spot. So business and personal taxes will be 100% reviewed, and that I'm confident of. So you want to have your state and federal business tax returns ready for 2019, 2020, and if you haven't completed 2020, do your best to, and at least have all of your interim financial records ready. Meaning that if you use QuickBooks, if you get a 1099K from Square or whoever you're working with for processing, you want to have those ready in this file. If you are a DBA or an LLC, you want to have your Schedule C 1040. Or if you're an LLC that files as an S Corp, or you are S Corp, you want to have your 1120S. Now, I'll make a note here, it's not on here, but you probably are going to have requested, it's a form from SBA called a 4506T. And that is allowing the SBA to get your financial, get your taxes, your business taxes directly from the government. So you're going to supply them, and then they're going to ask to be allowed to get them directly from the IRS. Now, why do they do that? They want to verify that what you're giving them is accurate, okay? So I didn't put it down here, but there are other forms that you may be asked to supply. And those forms, the SBDC can help you with. So you do want to have your state and federal business tax returns ready. You need to have your quarterly sales tax prepared. Payroll records and taxes, your 940s and your 941s. I'm sure all of you who did PPP have these ready, but now you need to have the current quarter. So, if you had them for 2019, if you had them for 2020, we need to have them for 2021 as well. If you have property tax, then we want your personal tax returns. Those personal tax returns may or may not be looked at, but you do need to have them ready in the event that they are requested. We want 3 years or as far back as 2019. So if you have more than 3 years, just 3 years is going to work. If you've only been in business for 2 years or 1 year, or just opened, as one of our guests just said, you're not going to have 3 years of business, but you do have to have 3 years of personal. And one question that's come up several times is, can I just have the Schedule C? Or can I just show my profit and loss? No, you need the entire workbook scanned, okay? So all of those pages that are in your tax return must be scanned. Questions?
There's nothing in the chat.
Okay, I'm gonna keep rolling.
I have a question. I do have a question. So I opened my business. We didn't start to run payroll until September 2020. Would we still qualify for this program?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I can go through some of that later as well, but there's a calculation for if you've been open for 2019. There's another calculation if you were open partially in 2019, and then there's a third calculation if you opened in 2020.
Awesome. Okay.
So
thank you.
anybody who's here right now, unless you opened in 2021, well, and I can't even say 100%, but there's 3 calculations that we have right now. Good question. Thank you, Ann.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
About payroll, if we lease our employees from one company to another, and our one company does not have payroll because those employees are leased, they're contract employees, would that company still qualify to be able to get this grant?
So qualification does not depend on employment or having
Okay.
employees, okay? And so, but if you're saying you're leasing, so you're still paying a fee, am I correct?
Correct. That's
So
correct.
that's going to be a business expense, a day-to-day business expense, so it will qualify.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could put your questions in the chat so that
Sure.
I get that. I mean, it's fine. I just don't want people to talk over each other, and I want to make sure I get everybody's attention. But please don't hesitate with any questions. Hopefully I'll be able to answer them. I just want you to know that the SBA put that guide up yesterday. So, you know, we're working off information that is really brand new. So I want to talk about sales tax because you have to be a good steward to get this money, okay? And so we want to be careful that we are not in default. Now, a bankruptcy does not automatically disqualify you, but being in arrears with tax, whether IRS or sales tax, could. And it did affect a number of individuals who applied for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, okay? So we want to make sure that you're registered with the Certificate of Authority, you have already created an online service account, okay? And that you file on the quarter, March 2021. The dates always, you know, kind of work around a weekend. But those are the 4 dates that you need to pay. If you're a small vendor, then it's only under $3,000, you only do it annually. But I'm assuming everybody who's on here is doing it quarterly, okay? I'm gonna tell you a personal situation with me. I owned a retail store for a number of years, and I got into trouble because I was spending the sales tax on staff. I mean, it just happens, right? So I learned my lesson and I opened up a separate bank account. And I do recommend that you consider this. I actually had 3. I had one for employees for my payroll. I had one for my sales tax, and I had one for my operating account. And they were all connected. And all I would do at the end of each week is swipe what I needed to for sales tax, swipe what I needed for payroll. So I do consider that like a really important tip, and you may want to think about doing something like that. However you manage your accounting, you know, is really very important, but do not fall behind in your sales tax or your tax with IRS, because that could affect this. And if you're in default at this point, clear it up as fast as you can, okay? Again, if you had those separate bank accounts, each one of those bank accounts should be titled and put into your business banking and loan documentation folder, okay? So where we have the bank statements, I would have, if I was still in business, I'd have a payroll bank account, I'd have my sales tax, and I'd have my operating. So the financial statements are critical. And again, I'm going to relate back a little bit to what happened with EIDL. You know, nobody was anticipating the pandemic. And so in March, when the doors closed, tax returns weren't done. People didn't have their interim financial statements ready. Some people didn't even have financial statements ready. So we've got a heads up now, okay? Hopefully your financials are done for 2020. If they're not ready on a tax return, they should be done. At least we have them closed out and adjustments have been made. If they haven't been made, we want to make those as soon as possible, okay? So at this point, we're assuming they're gonna want a 2020 tax return. If they're opening up before May 15, they may say that they'll take interim. I don't know. So if they take interim, you wanna make sure your QuickBooks are closed and you have, or whatever you use. You want to make sure that those are closed and that they're reconciled with your bank statements. So your balance sheet, you're going to want to see your assets and liabilities, okay? With your income statement, obviously, profit and loss. And then cash flow, they may ask for. Cash flow is probably the most important statement as a business owner that you're going to be watching, okay? This may or may not be taken in your application. The reason why I have it in here, because I think it's so critical that you want to make sure that you understand your break even, your run rate, especially with what's been happening. How long is your cash going to last? Okay, so we want to make sure that you understand your cash flow. If this is something that you don't maintain on a regular basis, I recommend that you do work with one of us on this, just to know where your break even is and your run rate. So we want to have your financial statements ready. I would recommend that you have, obviously 2019 is done, 2020 done, and then January through March 31st closed, so that you've got your first quarter. Okay? Any questions?
There was a question regarding file size and whether the portal will be able to accept the files that they're requesting. So I did respond in the chat stating that we're hoping that the SBA portal will be fixed to accept all the files that are required.
Right. Well, we know that that's been a problem up to this point. Recently with the shuttered venue, but I'm thinking that they're working out the kinks with the shuttered venue, and we're going to be fine with the restaurant revitalization fund.
And then there's one other question regarding taxes. If you have filed your taxes, are we going to need our financial statements as well?
It's possible. Okay. What I think is going to happen is that if you have your taxes for 2020 and 2019, you may have to file that form 4506T, which allows the SBA to get your taxes directly from the government. If in fact there is a discrepancy, it's possible they're going to ask for your financial statements. Okay, especially I think it's important for you to always keep those and analyze them by quarter anyways to know your seasonality, but I don't know if they're going to take them. Can't answer that one yet.
And then there's another question regarding they have a separate account for New York State Lottery. Do they need that statement as well as my operating account?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to assume that that should be maintained separately because that isn't your money. It's just like sales tax, right? So I would keep that separate. I think that's a really good question, and it's probably a really good practice. Again, it's too easy to spend that money if it's in your operating account. I mean, it's just it is what it is. We're trying to pay our employees. We're trying to pay our rent. So I do think it makes sense to keep it separate. And I know that you get a small percentage from that, but that percentage then would be swiped back into your regular operating account. We good, Andrea?
No, we have more questions.
Okay.
I'm not sure about this question, but it says our restaurant is a disregarded under another LLC.
Disregarded?
Yeah.
Whoever put that in, can you just unmute and ask that question directly? Okay, I don't know. So here's the thing. You can have multiple locations. You could have up to 20 locations. So if it's an LLC that has multiple locations, I think you're fine. If there's a parent company and you're a subsidiary, that's fine too. That just needs to be clear in the corporate documents. Okay.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Marilyn, I think what they're actually saying is the fact that they're a sole member LLC. That's the
sole member. Okay, so a sole member LLC is still an LLC, all right? So there's no problem with that. I mean, if you have to approve a board meeting or anything like that, we just had this recently, then you just do a resolution that you're the sole director, okay? But that will not preclude you from applying.
Do you want to keep going with questions?
Well, I don't have too much more in this, so let's go.
Okay. Do you think that they will need to submit 2021 interim financial statements?
I would be ready with them, yes. Especially if you opened late, especially if you opened in 2020.
And then how do we handle the 4506T form?
If they ask for it, it's an easy form to complete and it would be uploaded. At this point, I
Marilyn.
don't know if they're going to ask for it.
Marilyn, it's Greg Lindbergh. How
Hi.
you doing?
Hi, Greg.
Good. The 4506T is going to be automated that they'll certify to in the application.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. You're
I
welcome.
did see there was going to be attestations and certifications, but I didn't know. And I did read the 4506, but I wasn't sure. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody
Okay.
else?
Yep, there's one more question. And it says, we have not received the 2020 ERC, but we have included it in our 2020 books as revenue so that we don't have to refile 2020. Can I deduct this from 2020 revenue for the purpose of calculating the amount we qualify for?
I don't know. I'm sorry. The only thing I know that you wouldn't put your idle loan in. Well, I was reading this and this was, I can't answer. I'm just going to be honest. I don't want to answer and make a mistake. If there's another advisor on that can give an answer to that, please raise your hand, let us know. I'm going to take it as we don't know.
I haven't seen anything about it being connected yet, but that's the final rules aren't out either. So.
Right. Thanks, Greg. I don't know if you were on when I first announced that we don't have the final rules, so we're just kind of working by the guide and what we know at this point. I'm trying to really get everybody ready for their, just to be ready
sure.
to apply.
You know, and SBA is definitely trying to automate this process a bit more this time. So having your tax ID and social is going to be key because we're going to look up your PPP loans through that, and hopefully it should automatically populate in the application. Also with the bank account information, we have a system that connects it like Robinhood or one of those trading apps where you can connect your online banking directly to the application. And that is, you know, to help with the issues, like you said before, with, you know, people transposing the routing numbers and account numbers and that stuff. So, you know, it's a little bit more automated this time. So we're hoping that will take care of some of those issues.
That's incredible. Thank you, Greg.
You're welcome.
I do want to still recommend that everybody keep a folder with these types of details for any type of future funding as well, or just for your own personal records. I mean, it's important that you keep your housekeeping updated every year. So I'm just going to go on. I mean, certifications are important, okay? Obviously, if you're a certified minority, woman-owned business, veteran-owned business, the first 21 days of the application when they're open will be reserved for individuals of economic disadvantage, women, and veterans. Okay, so that's the first 21 days. So miscellaneous business documentation. I mean, the list can go on and on, but being, you know, proof of your business address, having your lease agreement, your utility bills, your tax bills, your mortgage, that's all important information to have, especially because those are eligible expenses. Your business insurance, vendor list. Now, for this, you don't necessarily need a vendor list, but it's important to have that information readily available if you need to know who are your key vendors. Where's your accounts receivable? Where's your accounts payable? All right. Any technical licenses that you might have, I don't know how that applies in this because this is kind of a general form that I've put together. And your business plan and financial projections. Those are always important to have. And if it's not for this restaurant revitalization fund, it's really important to have just to make sure that you're managing the climate of your business. Some personal documentation, what has been asked in the past is driver's license, passport, green card, and even resume. So here's the checklist. This is everything that we've talked about. Your business entity, critical, okay? As Greg just said, your EIN and your social needs to be available. Your banking, any tax information and financial statements, certification if applicable, and then miscellaneous business and personal files. All of this should be in a digital file on your computer, you know, locked and safe, but we recommend that you keep it like this so that you can act immediately, whether it be a small grant through Erie County or through the city of Buffalo or through the ECIDA. All of this is generic enough that if you are ready, you should be able to get funded. So I have one more slide, but I won't go into it until if there's any more questions.
There are. So does the PPP first and second round loans get deducted from eligibility amount for this new grant?
Yes.
Okay.
So as it stands, the calculation is your 2019 gross revenue less your 2020 gross revenue to show what that loss has been in gross receipts, less your PPP, round 1 and round 2.
Next question is regarding PPE. We have 2 DBAs under the same corporation, a hotel and a banquet hall. We receive PPE for both in one payment. Since the grant is for restaurants only, do we only subtract the portion of the PPE that is attributed to the restaurant and not the whole?
This is a little confusing.
No, it is PPP. Sorry, he just corrected. It's PPP, not PPE.
Okay. So I know for a banquet hall, at least 33, you need to have at least 33% of your revenue come from food service, food and alcohol service, right? So if in fact 33% comes from that, then it would be eligible. If the banquet hall just does rental, then the banquet hall is ineligible. I hope that makes sense.
I can jump in and explain a little bit. So,
Okay, thank you.
so we have a banquet hall that is a DBA, and we have a hotel that's a DBA. They both fall under the umbrella of the same corporation, but they're run separately. So there's a banquet hall that has a small restaurant. So if you take those revenues, but the PPP was applied for under the same umbrella corporation, but the proportion of the revenues that were applied for or expenses for the PPP are a certain percentage. Shouldn't we take and subtract the PPP as a percentage of what those revenues are of the whole?
So Frank, that sounds logical to me, but I don't know for sure. That would be one of those things that I would probably get a ruling. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't answer that one.
All right.
It makes sense. I mean, it sounds like a logical way to go, but we would, again, Mr. Lindbergh's on the call, but we would probably be reaching out to Mr. Lindbergh to get a ruling. And again, like we said, the final rules aren't out, so it's not, I mean, when these final rules come out, it's going to be 80-some pages versus the 12 that's on the website right now. So we'll be digging in, and I do recommend whether you're in Erie County or Niagara County or wherever you are, get an advisor so that when these rules come out, we can dig in and find out for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry, I feel like I didn't answer that well enough.
The next question, do we need the vendor for application for funds or application for forgiveness?
So we're not looking for forgiveness for this, right? Because this is a grant. So if you're talking about forgiveness with PPP, that's something totally separate. But there's no forgiveness with this. I mean, if the funds are used for eligible expenses and you're eligible for this grant, there's no forgiveness, as far as I'm reading.
And can you reiterate the monthly bank statements for what years? And do they need every month for 19, 20, and 21?
So no, I don't think that they need every month. What I'm recommending though is that you scan those monthly digital files that you get from your bank and put them into a calendar year. So all of 2019, keep it in one. All of 2020, keep it in one. All of 2021, keep it at one. I don't think that bank statements are going to be like forensically looked at. I'm saying that's just good housekeeping. You know what we had to do with the number of people who were not ready with EIDL in March of 2020. The reason why I say this is because there were so many people who didn't have their bookkeeping in order. We actually recommended to go back into the bank statements and rebuild their cash flow and their profit and loss from those bank statements. That's why it's critical to have them. So they may not be used for this, but you should always keep them because they could be used for something else. I mean, it's just good housekeeping.
Is PPP that's not forgiven subtracted from the grant amount?
Ooh, good question. Well, I'm not going to make,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Okay.
all the PPPs are going to be, they're going to look up the PPP loans that you got, and that's going to be subtracted,
But
whether
EIDL
it's
does
forgiven
not.
or not.
Okay,
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay. Thank you, Greg.
Is the funding available for restaurants only and not banquet halls / event centers who do rentals?
So as far as I have read, there needs to be 33% of the gross revenue must come from food and beverage. Like if you're a winery, okay? If 75% of your sales comes from the sale of bottled wine and tastings, then you wouldn't be eligible.
Okay, and then is PPP 1 and 2 counted as grant in 2020 income, or doesn't have to add as income if it is a grant?
So you need to deduct it from your gross revenue.
In Maryland, can we just double back to that other question?
Sure.
For bakeries, brew pubs, tasting rooms, tap rooms, it's on-site sales to the public comprised of at least 33% of gross receipts in 2019. So they don't want those folks, you know, because a lot of people pivoted to wholesale, right? But they were, you know, doing in-person before that. So I think that's where that lands. 33% of gross receipts are on-site sales.
On-site, okay, thank you.
Okay, yep.
Okay, and then coffee shops, are they eligible? We do not create food on premise, but do carry food.
So you're buying and so you're wholesaling and then retailing, right? So you're buying from another bakery, or you're buying from, you know, I don't know, Tarantino's, something that's already made, and you're selling it.
Correct.
I think that that's eligible. Greg?
Yeah, I would think so. Yes, definitely. And you know, if you have this is pretty open as far as eligibility goes. I mean, you know, your hot dog stand, food carts, all that stuff are eligible for this. So, you know, the worst that can happen is that you apply and are denied. Sometimes that's the best way to get a, you know, understanding if you are eligible, but that would sound to be eligible to me.
Thank you, Craig.
Two people have raised their hands and then I'll go back to the chat. So the first one, Anwar, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay. Margaret Z, your also hand is raised. Do you want to ask your
Yes,
question?
hi. Yes, hi. I have a question. Who would be the distributor of the money? So basically, who we should apply through the SBA or the bank? Like the PPP, we applied through the bank. So who would be the one that we should apply for the grant?
It is directly through the SBA. So you're going to be applying through the SBA. Yes.
Okay. And you're going to send us the moment when you guys will be receiving the go for it, you would be sending us the link to the application, or how does it work?
Well, so if you worked with one of us, yeah, we would do that directly, but I do encourage you all to go to the SBA website. Right now, there's a full guide, there's a sample application.
Okay.
I think there's even an app. So it's
Okay.
yeah, and that all just came up this weekend. So
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
I didn't have the time. We were crazy busy at the restaurant.
Well, that's a good thing, right?
Which is a good news, absolutely.
Good.
Thank you.
And Marilyn, we're working with some of the larger point of sale providers as well to have folks be able to apply directly through some of those places.
I saw that, Greg, but I couldn't tell who it was, so I was afraid to mention it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the names yet, but it's all the biggest ones basically, because I don't see it in any information we released on Saturday, but that might be an easy way for folks to do it too. So
That's great.
stay
That's
tuned.
great. So when I had mentioned keeping your 1099K from Toast or from Square or whoever you're working with, it's possible that they will be a participant in this program, a partner with the SBA. But again, we don't know who those are yet, so that's why I avoided that question. So.
Okay, back to the chat. How is the grant amount determined?
Well, so there's 3 different calculations, and they are on the website if you want to take a look. It depends on your gross receipts for 2019 and 2020, less your PPP. That's if you were open in 2019. If you were partially open in 2019, we would take that monthly average for that partial time. So you were open 3 months. We would take that and make that an assumed average, and then we would do the same with 2020. So we'd take that average for 2019, project it out 12 months, do the same for 2020, and use that as your basis. But if you just opened in 2020, we're just going to look at your expenses less your gross receipts. So if your expenses were higher than your gross receipts, less your PPP. So it depends, and it's pretty clear on the website. You could take a look at it, and again, we'll help you with that. I don't know, was that clear? Did I make it clear?
Sure.
All right.
Next question. Sorry, that jumped. Okay. My CPA instructed me to include the PPP grant funds as revenue received in QuickBooks. You said this needs to be deducted. They're confused. I have not applied for forgiveness for the PPP as of yet, but will be shortly.
So as Greg had said, whether or not you get forgiveness or not, it needs to be deducted for this grant's purpose.
We are a bar that our alcohol sales account for more than our food sales, over 70%. Does that reach the 33% food and beverage quota?
So I misspoke and Greg corrected this earlier. The 33% only applies to in-house sales in 2019 because so many people moved to takeout in 2020. So you should be fine.
We have another hand raised by James, if you want to ask your question.
Yeah, so I have two restaurant cafes. One that was open for all of 19, and one that opened in November 19. When I applied, obviously for PPP, it was just kind of a blanket for the entire business based on how you would calculate gross receipts. Should I calculate the one that was partially open in 19 separately from the one that was open all the way through 19?
So I don't have a definitive answer, but that's exactly what I would do.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they one LLC or one corporation?
Yes.
Okay. I would handle them as separate entities because I know you can have separate entities, and I would handle them each as a standalone. I don't see Greg chiming in at this point, but I'm thinking that that would probably be the smart way. And you know what? If you do it wrong, the SBA will make the correction.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all the questions I have.
Woohoo! Okay, well, if you're thinking of any more, I just want to go to my last slide because I would be remiss if I didn't put this up. Credit, okay? I don't believe it has any role right now in this, except for if there's a bankruptcy, if you're permanently closed or you did a Chapter 7, you can't apply, okay? But it's important to think about your credit, okay? About your character, okay? So your personal credit has a lot to do with the character that they look at. If this was a true loan, if this grant is not going to be enough and you still need to go for a loan, we need to make sure you have capacity, that you have the cash flow. It's really important to understand your cash flow. Capital, how much money have you already put into the business? They look at that because that's your skin in the game. And do you have collateral? Now, we don't have to worry about collateral with this loan because this is a grant. This is a very unusual program, but collateral is very important. And then, you know, conditions. There's something with the ECIDA right now, which is a really cool program too. They have a 1% interest rate loan that can be up to 10 years. You don't pay anything first year, second year, it's interest only at 1%. If you needed additional money, they would look at these 5 C's. And I mean, know what's out there, know what's available. These are low interest. You have to prove that COVID has affected you either adversely or positively. But character, capacity, capital, collateral, and conditions, really, really important. Take a look at your personal credit score. I mean, I had my business for a number of years and I never got a credit score for my business. Anybody just looked at my personal. So we really want to make sure that you know where you are. And remember, if you have a problem, there's credit counseling services. There's a number of different organizations. I say credit counseling because they're a nonprofit and they don't charge much money. But we do want to make sure that you know where you are in all of this. It has nothing to do with this grant, unless, like I said, you had a bankruptcy and you're permanently closed for Chapter 7. If you're an 11, 12, or 13 in a bankruptcy at this point, you still can apply. Okay.
Marilyn, we have another hand raised. Pat V, if you want to unmute yourself to ask your question.
Sure. So I might have missed a portion of this. So if you could clarify, a winery that has on-premise consumption of wine and alcohol but doesn't serve food, are they eligible for this?
Greg?
Yes, but it's that 33% of gross receipts had to come from in person in 2019.
Okay, gotcha. And one more question here. So I'm a disabled veteran, but I've not gotten the certification that was listed on the previous slide. Is that a requirement in order to qualify?
I think you could self-certify, and I would probably go on that site and self-certify now.
I would probably have your DD 214 ready at the time of application as well. That'll probably, you might want to have that scanned and ready to upload as a document when you apply, because you'll be in that initial window that is able to apply.
Okay, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
would that be the sam.gov website that we're talking about? Because I went to the SDV OSB website and it really didn't during this presentation, and it wasn't especially clear, it seemed.
I think
it is Sam.
it's not, I'm just seeing if we had it moved to certify. If you go to the SBA website and then sba.gov and click on the government contracting certification tab, then look for the service disabled veteran owned small business link. We've moved some of them to certify. This new certify site, I don't see the veteran one on the certify site yet. So just follow the links from sba.gov.
Mauricio, are you on the line? Do you know the answer to this one?
Yes, I am here, Marilyn. I also haven't, I'm trying to look for the link, but I'm happy to connect with you, Pat, and help you get through it.
Okay, thank you.
So Pat, Mauricio is our certification expert on staff here at Buck State. So if you want to contact him directly, he can help you.
Okay, thanks.
Of course.
James, did you have another question? Okay. Oh, there's two questions in the chat. Okay. So the first question is for the priority groups. I have a question on the social and economically disadvantaged. So we are a karate bar or a karaoke bar that wasn't allowed to open when other bars are open. Instead, only recently on April 2nd, because we are deemed to have live singing entertainment, which placing us in the same group as comedy clubs, Broadway shows. However, we are not eligible for the SVOG because we are deemed a bar. Would that situation place us in a priority group for the RRF grant, since we weren't allowed to open when other bars were allowed?
So to the best of my knowledge, so I'm sorry that you're in that position, but to the best of my knowledge, minorities, women, and veterans fit into that first 21 days. And so when I said economically disadvantaged, that usually is, so I read that and I reported it to you, but it's really minorities that fall into that category.
Okay, the next question is, my majority partner is an Army veteran. Do we need to go to a process to get us recertified as a veteran-owned business? We have never before required this classification, so have no official documentation.
So if it's 51% veteran-owned, what Greg and Mauricio were just talking about is to go to the website on the SBA site and look at where it has the SVOG. I always screw up those initials, SDVOSB. And you should be able to apply and get your certification. I don't think it's a long process. It's just showing your discharge papers and if you're disabled, to prove that.
Okay, Marilyn, I just put the link for the veteran-owned business certification on the chat box.
Thank you, Mauricio.
Margaret Z, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Sure, I'm sorry. I have a just to clarify the question for the certificate of the for the minority. We are partnerships LLC with another my business partner, but she's a woman as well. So we are 100% women. So how? Yeah, we are 100% women. So how the certificate is enough? The certificate of the business stating our names, or how does it work?
Have you ever applied before for minority status?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm not too sure. Go ahead.
I was gonna say if they're 100% woman-owned, then that would be probably what they're applying under anyway.
But they don't need a certificate for that? They don't?
I haven't seen anything saying that you need to be certified, so I don't,
Okay.
officially, so.
Okay, so that would be just the proof of the ownership of the business that's stating that two women's name, or I don't know.
So when we talked about this before, this is part of the reason why you want to have your, your certificate of organization or your articles of incorporation. You have to list who your shareholders are, or you list who your members are. That should be sufficient, according to Greg. And there are attestations, I always say that wrong, but there are certifications and attestations that you're going to be signing to, saying that you're giving them the true information. So maybe it'll be in there. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome. Great question.
I do have a question again about the women-owned business. So you don't think we should go on and try and get certified before we apply?
I don't think there's time. Mauricio?
Definitely there's no time if you wanted to get certified with the state, but I believe you can go on SAM and update your profile to make sure it says you're a woman-owned business.
Go on where?
SAM.
SAM.gov.
Okay. And then that would mean that we would be able to apply within that first 21 days instead of waiting. Okay.
You can apply either way. I mean, it'll definitely be easier if you're already a certified woman-owned business or a certified veteran-owned business, because the government already has those certifications. But like Marilyn said, you're going to attest to the fact that you are probably more than 51% woman-owned or veteran-owned or socially and economically disadvantaged owned. So that'll be what you attest to in the application, and then that will be reviewed as well. And
okay,
like I said,
and that should be enough that we're attesting to that information. Okay.
Yeah, it's probably not going to, like you said, be able to be certified and done in that time, as Marilyn just said. So, and then somebody at SBA will be reviewing those and checking them on the back end. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
There's two more questions in the chat. One is, are we considered a minority if we are 75% woman-owned?
Well, no, you're a women-owned business. But if you're a woman of color, then you're both.
Okay. And then when is it anticipated to be open to minority and women businesses?
We don't.
Right.
At
And
this,
then,
yeah.
And then the next part is 21 days after for everyone else, correct?
Correct.
And then is there a max amount set aside for the first group and what is expected to be left for the rest?
No, I have no idea. I do know, okay, so there's what? $28 billion in this act, right? We know that you can get up to $5 million per location. If you're applying for anything under $1,000, you're not eligible. So it needs to be between $1,000 and $5 million. You need to have 20 or fewer locations, which is going to knock out those big players that, you know, were first to come in with idle. Okay, so we don't know. That's why we're encouraging you to be ready to go. The money is not going to be gone in the first 21 days. Okay, it's really important to be ready. We don't, you know, but it's not going to be gone in the first 21 days. Anybody want to know about eligible expenses? I'll tell you really fast. Payroll, mortgage, rent, utilities, debt service, interest and principal. Can't consolidate debt or anything like that. Utilities, maintenance of your space and of equipment that you have, construction to do an outdoor patio, outdoor seating, normal vendor supplies that you to operate, and all of your day-to-day operating expenses. They need, so you need to use this money by March 11 of 2023. So it's not just for you to take and like, you can't just clean up all your bills. You have to use it on eligible expenses, and it must be used by March 11 of 2023. And their business expenses, just one more thing, incurred between February 15 of 2020 and March 11 of 2023. So we can go back to February 15 of 2020 and forward to March 11, 2023.
And then this
Carolyn?
Yeah, yes.
I was
might
going to
be a
say,
que-
just, Andrea,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, just to double back on the set aside questions. What we have is $5 billion is set aside for applicants with 2019 gross receipts of not more than 500,000. $4 billion for applicants with 2019 gross receipts between 501,000 and 1.5 million, and 500 million for applicants with 2019 gross receipts of not more than 50,000. The other thing to note is that everyone can apply in those first 21 days. The funds are just distributed to women-owned, veteran-owned, socially and economically disadvantaged businesses. And then day 22, we'll accept applications from all eligible, excuse me, okay. So yeah, 21 days, and then day 22, SBA will accept applications from all eligible applicants and distribute funds in the order in which applications are approved by SBA. So the biggest thing in all of this though, if we ask you to automate something when you're going through the application, just do it, because those are the checks that, fraud checks and other things that hold up the applications. If anybody had a PPP loan or an EIDL loan where we asked for more information and all that stuff, we're trying to take some of that out of the process here. So just try to be efficient with that, and do the things that you're asked when you're going through the application.
Thanks, Greg. And that's wonderful to know about the set aside. I do have a question. I'm confused. Can anybody apply day one?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I was just reading this because it says SBA will accept applications from all eligible applicants day 1 to 21. During this period, SBA will distribute funds only for approved applications where the applicant is self-certified that it meets the eligibility requirements for a small business owned by women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. So it's written That's something I need to get clarification on because it looked like it when I initially read it, but now I'm not sure. So
I'm not sure either, but so if somebody were to apply on day 1 and they weren't eligible until day 22, would they just stay in queue, or you don't know
yeah,
that?
I'm sure it would probably just be held, but let us get more information on that because I'm sure we'll have more in the next, probably by the end of the week as far as, how that's going to go. So,
Thank you.
yep.
So I just want to give a shout out to Greg and to the local SBA office. They have been so helpful to the Small Business Development Center, giving us answers like this. You can see it's very confusing. We do our best at this office to have the information, but it's just, there's just too much detail. So, if it weren't for the local office, Greg and Valerie or Veronica, I'm pulling a blank here. Help me, Andrea. Miss Reynolds. Okay, so
Victoria.
yeah, Victoria and Paul. They've been so much help to us. But is there any more questions or?
There are more questions in the chat box. This one's for Greg. Will it be an all or nothing grant? Example: apply for 800K and money is short, so they give just 400K. Did Greg leave?
I don't know, Greg.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was muted and talking to myself. Unfortunately, we really don't have any idea right now. It's going to depend. As Congressman Higgins said, they need to put more money to this program based on, what he said the economic losses were versus what, is currently available. So that's why all of this is so important to have all these documents ready, have all these details ready, because it's going to go fast and furious once this opens up. So.
Thank you. And next question, can the money be used for remodeling inside dining room in order to bring it up to date?
Well, the way I read it, it sounded like yes. Because they're talking about maintenance of space and equipment, and it did talk about rugs and painting and that type of thing.
Okay. The next question is, what day can we apply? We don't know when the application is going to open yet.
No.
And then, so if you're not in a special group, we can apply in first 21 days, but they won't accept till day 22, correct?
We think that, and if you want to check back with us or check the website, like Greg had said, it's a little bit ambiguous. I read it that you couldn't apply until day 22, but when Greg read it, it sounded like you could, but the issuance of funds won't start until day 22. So the final at this point is be ready and get an advisor and stay in touch with that advisor, because we will hit our clients with it's open, let's go. So it's important to reach out to Lynn Oswald's office as well as our office in Buffalo.
Yeah, we can't give a definitive answer on that. I'm sorry, I kind of misspoke. I read it the way it was, and but there will definitely be more Zooms and things like this before it opens. I can guarantee that. So there will be more information coming as we get the rules.
Okay. And then, so you can essentially reimburse the business from applicable expenses from 2020 as an eligible expense for grant purposes?
That's how I read it. Going back to February 15 of 2020.
Greg answered that there will be more Zooms coming out with more details. Yes, you can have a copy of the presentation. Next question. I received $25,000 from the New York State grant, Erie County and 43 North. Is that counted as income or grant?
I believe you need to talk to your tax accountant, but I believe it's income.
And then somebody wants Lynn Oswald's contact information.
If I could jump in on that, Ms. Oswald is on the Zoom, and Marilyn and Andrea, if it would be appropriate, I would like to introduce Lynn right now. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, so very good. I mentioned earlier that this workshop was created together with the NCCC, Niagara Community College Small Business Development Center. Their director is Lynn Oswald. She is our partner in these initiatives. She runs a small business development center in Niagara County, as we do here in Buffalo and Erie County and Wyoming County. So I would like to take this moment to let Lynn get on. So Lynn, if you're there, if you could unmute yourself and put yourself on the camera, and please say hello to the participants.
Thank you, Sue, for that. What an amazing program your staff has put together this morning. To be able to answer questions when we don't have all the details, I know is a very, very difficult role to play. Yes, the Niagara SBDC is here to help as well. If your business is located in Niagara County, you can reach us. I put the phone number in the chat. It's 716-210-2515. And we're here to help, and all the services that Sue provides, we're ditto here in Niagara County.
Yep, very, very good. And team, I want to make it as easy as possible for everyone to be able to read. Oh, well, very good, Marilyn. There's the phone number. There is the, you can email us or call us, and we would very much love to, as soon as possible, connect you with one of our business advisors. And it's faster than ever because we do it virtually. We don't have to get you a parking permit or a map or tell you how to get to either Buffalo State or NCCC. You're going to be able to contact us. We should be able to get together with you fairly quickly to answer any of your questions. There are benefits also to being a client, because you become our friend for life, and we send you a lot of other information, other programs that come up. For example, during 2020, we did have Cindy Thomason, our other senior advisor and restaurant specialist. Cindy, we produced like 3 or 4 workshops specifically for restaurants. I mean, other than this particular grant opportunity. So that will continue. We also offer a wide range of other services, and I do want to mention 2 in particular. We do have access to legal counsel. The leader of our legal team is Mr. John Donner, who's on today with the Western New York Law Center. So we thank you. That doesn't happen immediately. He's got a pretty big backlog on that, but in a few weeks, if you had questions pertaining to your future, not so much, you don't need him for this grant application. Do keep in mind, we have that service available to you at no charge. We also have available 5 marketing specialists that we can arrange to make appointments for you to meet with them. And you may say, well, I'm in business, why do I need them? Well, it could be you need your website to get a little bit of a review, maybe some updating. They could look at some of your design features, look at the strategies you're using for social media, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Our clients who engage in any of these services find it extremely beneficial. In order to secure any of those services, you need to meet with a primary advisor, which could be a very quick meeting, and become officially a client of the SBDC. I want to reiterate, this holds for Lynn and NCCC and Buffalo State, what I'm saying. There is no charge to you for those services. I mean, do make a note of that, okay? We have been fortunate enough to have tremendous support from Congressman Higgins, other members of Congress, the state of New York, and our respective SUNY institutions at making these services available to you. So I like to say they're very expensive services, they're top-notch, top professionals, but you do not have to pay for them because that's being taken care of at this time. So we hope you will reach out to us. This has been great. Thank you. I'm going to shoot this back to Marilyn for any wrap-up comments. And Marilyn, again, as in the past, phenomenal presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I wish I was able to answer all the questions. Luckily, we had Greg on the line, and but you know, if there's a need to do this again, I believe we will do it again if there's more people who need to learn this. And if there's any other questions, we can answer them now. Otherwise, we'll just adjourn. Andrea?
There's nothing else in the chat.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your attention and great questions, and I wish you all the best, and I love everybody's restaurant. I eat way too much. Sue, you're muted, Sue.
Thank you for noticing that. Before we close, I almost forgot. No, in addition to Greg Lindberg, SBA, Bravo, and of course, Lynn Oswald, fellow director at NCCC, I'd like a shout out, please, from all of the advisors from Buffalo State Small Business Development Center so that your face pops up when you say hello. Okay, and I can't see everybody with this little lineup the way it's set up right now. I know maybe we could move it to full visual. I'm not sure. Oh, good, Marilyn, thank you. Okay, good. So I do see Bernie Aja. Please say hello, Bernie.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to help in any way.
Good, thank you. I know I saw Cindy Thomason earlier. Not sure. Yep, Cindy.
Hey, good morning. I'm here too.
Okay, Cindy Thomason. Mauricio said hello to you previously.
Hi everyone, happy to help with any small business certifications or if you need counseling in Spanish.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Okay, muy bien. Very good. I saw
Awesome.
Mike McCarley.
Morning, everybody. Definitely here to provide assistance.
Very, very good. I love the team, of course. And Andrea Lysak, you've been here talking to Andrea, but you can say officially hello again. Andrea Lysak, where are you?
I'm right here. Hi, everybody. I'm also here to help with anything you need.
Yes, obviously a woman who appreciates wine and nice glasses, which we can see during the meeting. I know Andrea and her family, they test out a lot of restaurants for us, so it's all good. Thank you. Yeah, we're all restaurant fans. Please remind me, did I miss anybody, Andrea, of the team? Did I goof up on that? Forgive me, jump up if I did. Nope, we're in good shape. Okay, thank you. All right, one last time, handing it back to Marilyn. I thank you all for being on today. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is all recorded, so if you want the recording, please ask Andrea or email me. Or are we sending out evaluations soon?
Yes, thank you. Oh, you're very good, Marilyn. I forgot that detail. I got to ask Andrea how that's being done. But anyway, let me share when she explains to you what's going to happen. It is our only fee to you this morning, fee, is for you to fill out the evaluation. I mean, fill out something, because we can only count you if we get an evaluation. And it is helpful to us to be able to have that done. It's one of these simple things, but the sooner we can get it out to everybody on the call, that would probably be preferable. How does that work, Ms. Lysak?
Do you will be emailing everybody the evaluation link?
So that means it's it comes from Jones Davis, right?
Yes.
Email. Thank you. Okay. All right. This time I promise I won't say any more. Thank you. Marilyn.
Thank you, everyone.
In your category, I don't mean that in a bad